You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back, ready to commence another broadcast week here on the network. How was your weekend? Did you have a good time out there? Have fun, relax, see some friends, see some family. Get away from your screens. Now it's time to get back. Get your faces glued back to the old screen. See what's going on out there in the markets. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the THE, OptionsInsider.com, as well as from the network upon which many of you were mainlining even over the weekend, maybe doing some catch-up. Maybe you missed some stuff last week. Maybe you missed stuff over the last 16-plus years. It's all there for you to mainline at your leisure, at your own convenience. Of course, if you want to go above and or beyond, only one place to go to do just that, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, the place to go to get your name in the hat for the giveaway. It's coming up. Man, we're already coming to the end of September. Crazy. Coming up. Going to be giving away the September Pro Trading Crate soon, so get your name in the hat before the end of the month. To qualify for that giveaway, of course, you get access to 225, 250 something episodes sitting there waiting for you the second you hit that button, as well as, of course, live streams, great pro Q&As, options oddities, all sorts of fun. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro. Speaking of fun, it is time to kick off our broadcast week with a little bit of fun ourselves. It is time for the 80s Wrestling Trivia Challenge. Here we go. All right. As we get our suitable trivia music going here, listeners. Are you ready? Are you primed? Can you name that 80s wrestler? I guess we'll find out. This week's wrestler, he's an interesting one. He's a bit of a conundrum to me. When you look back at him, I mean, he was definitely a mid-carder in terms of his placement on the card. But he was also exceedingly popular, which is what makes him a bit of a conundrum. I mean, I certainly liked him as a kid. A lot of kids, I think he was over with the kids. The kids liked his gimmick. Maybe the WWF didn't, because he never really won a major title there. He wasn't a champion at WWF. Yet, he was so popular, he was one of the handful of wrestlers that was featured regularly on the Hulk Hogan's Rocking Wrestling cartoon. So the kids liked him. He was one of the faces up there with Hogan and Jimmy Snuka, which, that has aged badly, and Hillbilly Jim and Tito Santana, and this guy. He was one of the other, and Andre was running around with Hogan. They were the faces. There were, of course, bad guys, Roddy Piper and everything. But one of the few faces was this guy. So he was clearly popular, especially with that demographic that the cartoon was aimed at. He used to walk out to a song by none other than Queen. I think this was a better song, quite frankly. Another One Bites the Dust, and then they changed it later on to a song that he recorded, kind of a weird one called Get Them Cakes. that became kind of his trademark thing. And of course, speaking of trademarks, he came out with the chain around his neck. That was kind of iconic for him. In fact, I know recently in the last couple of decades, we've seen MMA fighters come out with that same gimmick, all hearkening back to this very popular wrestler. I've already seen a buzz. TOSAW was in there early, so we shall go out now to the one, the only Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, what super popular, over yet never championship winning mid-carder am I talking about?
The Junkyard Dog.
Yes, indeed. Good old JYD. R.I.P. to him. He died early. He died tragically, apparently coming home from his daughter's high school graduation in a car crash. So, yeah, did not make it long. But good old JYD with the chains. And very popular. Again, popular enough to be featured on the cartoon, but not popular enough to give a title to. Very weird, very, very tragic circumstance. Most of these wrestler stories are pretty tragic, unfortunately. You know it's not tragic, though. It's the trading block. So let's get to it.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, listeners, were you able to get that? I gave you a lot of clues. Good old JYD, a very popular one out there. This market was looking popular, then it wasn't, then it kind of is again today. Kind of a weird one. Of course, you know the saga that happened last week. Mostly unpopular was the long equity trade last week. Folks heading for the exits most of the week, especially post-Powell and them really selling things hard. We're still kind of feeling the after effects of that today. The market's still kind of shaky, on wobbly legs. It's wanting to rally today, but it doesn't seem like it has any firm conviction, really. S&P right now up about 0.25% as we're kicking off the show. So a little over 11 handles. We're hanging out right around the 43.30 level. So a couple of hundred handles below where we were not too long ago, right around the 45.5 level. But also not quite plunging to the depths, not threatening 4,300 in the wrong direction anymore, or even trading below it. So not quite there yet. Kind of vacillating. The Dow wanting to go red on the day again, kind of flirting with unched right now. We shall see. Again, the session is young. And the NASDAQ up about 0.33%. So most of the major indices getting back a little bit, a nibble of what they gave up last week. Is this just the calm before the storm? Is this the beginning of a huge upswing today? Or is it just kind of another day where we're going to tread water? I guess we'll find out. VIX coming into showtime was at about 17.25. So north of the 17 handle, listeners, puts it up almost a full point, about 0.85 from where it was on the Thursday show. VVIX getting frothier, 93 up about a point. VXX at about a 23 when we kicked off the show, up about 0.75 of a point. And then UVXY at a 16, up 0.9 of a point. SVIX 29.75. Let's see how we're looking, down about 3 points from where we were. Actually, it's giving up more now. It's 28.60. So that puts it down even more. Yeah, 28.60. It's down almost about 4 points from where it was at this time. A little over, about 410 from where it was this time last week. And then UVIX, this is the one. Man, I was just making fun of this for a good while on Volviews on Friday, saying, what are they doing with this thing? Kind of a waste of time. And they heard me, I guess, because they have finally, after much lambasting, have finally decided to reverse split this thing. It's hanging out unched right now around 3.5, but it's going to get a 10-to-1 reverse split. So 35 ain't nothing. Of course, it's not going to happen till October 11th. So this thing's going to erode probably all the way back below $2 before they finally reverse split this thing. So we're probably going to get more like a high teens UVIX. I was hoping for a 15, maybe even a 20X. I knew 20 was optimistic, but I was hoping for it. We got a 10. I guess at this point, beggars can't be choosers. It's better than a sub 2 handle like we were hanging out at for a long time. All right, let's go around the horn. Let's go to our winner first, the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, what are your thoughts on this bit of a conundrum, super popular, super over, but still a mid-carder, never won a titler that was good old JYD, and then B, what's catching your eye, and kind of a middling Uncle Mike kind of day?
Yeah, I remember in the cartoon, he actually lived at his junkyard, from what I remember. So that's really amazes me that I remember that. But nonetheless, he was definitely very popular and one of my fond memories. I loved my grandfather very much. He passed away a long time ago when I was a kid, but I remember riding in his car one time, and Another One Bites the Dust happened to come on the radio. So we played it, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I had no idea who Queen was or anything else about the song. But I'm like, Grandpa, this is the Junkyard Dogs theme song or entrance music. And that was just a fond memory I have of the Junkyard Dogs. So
can we agree, by the way, orders of magnitude better than Grab Them Cakes or whatever the hell that other song was that he used to come out with? I guess
I didn't even know he had another song. That's the only one that I thought he came into.
Yeah, I guess they didn't want to pay the licensing fee. I don't know. He recorded it. It became like his iconic song. I think they even recorded it for like the WWF soundtrack, one of those things. But yeah, another one bites the dust. Infinitely better than his other song.
Yeah, that's what I remember him coming into. So that, as far as I'm concerned, there is no other song. So I don't even know about it. That's my thought on it. So I'll agree with you, Mark, and I'll agree without even knowing the other side of it. That's how strongly I feel, and I'm with you on it. So in terms of these markets today, it seems like the markets are just waking up, trying to figure out what are we going to do. It has this pain from last week and the idea of the Fed not wanting to go away quietly. Bonds are selling a little bit today. Still not selling a lot, but just selling a little bit with where they are right now. So we have that. And it's just ultimately based upon fear in the interest rate market. Apple's up a little bit today, so we do have that working in our favor for those of us bulls out there. Microsoft, if you're looking to buy into Microsoft, you could have another opportunity now because it was up in the mid 300s, went down, came back up again, and now it's back down again. So if you're looking for a buying opportunity and you are bullish there, that could be an opportunity for you. So we do have that. And then just the sector that seems to consistently be strong throughout all of this is energy. We're up over 1% in the energy sector today, looking at XLE, up over $1 on the day today. So we do have that. And then just a couple other names that are just that I continue to look at. NVIDIA is up 1% on the day. So that's like a freakishly slow day for NVIDIA. And we do have Amazon up roughly 2% on the day, up over $2. So we do have a couple of names that are popping today, but it's definitely not a broad-based rally by any means. And I think just the market is still not willing to show its hand yet as to whether the bad news is already out, let's buy the bad news, or, you know what, we're still kind of scared of this thing called the Fed. Market is not showing its hand as of yet. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, the market seems like it's still kind of waking up hungover from last week. Maybe needs a little bit of the old hair of the dog. Either way, it just seemed a little bit wobbly, a little bit unsteady to start the week. He's always wobbly. He's always unsteady. He always needs a bit of the hair of the dog. He is the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Mr. Meatball, sir, what are your enduring memories of one, JYD, and then B, what's catching your eye out there in the market, sir?
Yeah, I was always a big fan. You know, he was the champion in lots and lots of other leagues, just never the WWF for some reason. You know, not even an Intercontinental Championship, which is weird because he was world champion for multiple of the other, you know, regional leagues. You know, he was, I think, a little bit older when the WWF really started to take off. You know, he wasn't a spring chicken like Tito Santana. But, you know, he really should have been an Intercontinental Champion. The fact that he wasn't and Honky Tonk Man was for how many days is kind of sad.
His record, Honky's record was just broken like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
it's lasted that long.
Yeah, I mean, but, you know, I don't think Hillbilly Jim was ever a champion. So, you know, there are a couple of those guys that we really like that were never made a champion in the WWF.
Yeah, it shocks me about JYD. I would have just assumed how popular he was. I just thought he had been at least IC, right? And yet nothing. Yeah, that kind of shocks me. So, yeah, I was kind of shocked to learn that today. So I learned a little bit in my trivia as well. And
it just shows how tough a competition the WWF was back in the day. I mean, that was the elite of the elite. The best of the best went there.
And they didn't have 8 million belts like they have today, right? So there only could be a handful of champs. And apparently JYD didn't make the cut.
Yeah, but at the same time, they sat there with the Honky Tonk Man holding this belt forever, which is nonsensical. All right? I mean, you know, over the period of time that JYD was active, who were the Intercontinental champions? You know,
Honky and kind of it. And then Warrior came along.
And I think I want to say that, you know, well, here, I'm going to go through the list here. So Ken Patera, Pedro Morales. So Tito Santana was in 1984 for about, there's one, Greg Valentine, Tito Santana, Randy Savage, even Ricky Steamboat had it. Then the Honky Tonk Man, then the Ultimate Warrior. You don't think that over that period of time, all right, that between Tito Santana, Greg Valentine, and Randy Savage and the Honky Tonk Man, I'm going to give Ricky Steamboat his 65 days. You don't think that we could have given JYD, that's, let's see, 510, let's see, 725. Randy Savage had it for over a year. So we're now looking at 1150 plus the Honky Tonk Man's 450 days. So we're talking, you had 1,600 days in which JYD was not the Intercontinental Champion. That's a problem.
Bet you didn't think, listeners, you'd get some calculations on the length of IC title reigns on today's show, but that's the kind of surprise data we give you here on the old OB. So there you go. You're welcome, listener.
Hey, Mark, you know who had the shortest reign?
Shortest IC title reign. Was it Ricky the Dragon? Because I think they took it off him. They were mad at him, right?
No, it wasn't. There are a couple of people that held it for only one day. Edge.
Oh,
Triple H.
More recent stuff. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, Edge, Triple H. Well, there's one that's not. Edge, Triple H, Chris Jericho. And now here's the old one. Dean Douglas held it for one day.
Oh, Jesus.
That's right.
I don't even know who that is. That's obscure.
Held the IC title for one day. I don't even know who Dean. Oh, you know what? I remember Dean Douglas. He also went by Shane Douglas later on.
That's not the kind of guy they would bring out to feed to Ultimate Warrior. It's Ultimate Warrior versus Dean Douglas. And he kind of had a feeling who was going to win that one just by the names alone on the market.
He lost to Razor Ramon.
Oh, jeez. Deep into the well of knowledge that is the IC title belt. You bet you didn't know it went that far. Listeners, fascinating stuff. Yeah, the honky reign lasted until like a couple of weeks ago, which is insane, that record. They just decided to break it a couple of weeks ago with some giant German guy they called Gunther. But weird stuff. Weird stuff in this market today, too, Mr. Meatball. What's catching your eye out there today?
This has a feel of Friday, kind of up, down, up. And then I'm going to be interested to see whether they are able to hold this up or whether we get some selling into the close. As Mike said, the bond market, with what's going on with the potential government shutdown and things like that, we're just seeing an absolute, bonds are taking on the chin. The 10 years down 0.4%. The 30-year bond, the long bond, that is where there was real pain. The long bond is down 1.5%. It's a little odd that we're up with bonds getting crushed like this. That is highly unusual. The other thing that's really crossed my tape is not Myanium, but Uranium. Uranium stocks are blowing up today. Names like CCJ are up 4%. Denison Mines up 2%. Uranium Energy Corp up 3%. Some big new moves there. And then the other area is the entertainment industry, where names like, CLTD, Warner Brothers Discovery was up earlier. Hera, it sounds like they're going to get a deal done. And that is, kind of interesting.
Yeah, we were talking about the uranium on Options Oddities. We talked about a lot of uranium flow. Everyone and their mother on the options side of the fence, listeners, is thinking uranium is poised to go to the moon. They are rallying. Right. Good old Denison. Good thing I didn't aggressively overwrite them yet again. I decided this time I'll keep my powder dry. And Denison finally breaking out of a crappy range it's been languishing in for quite some time. But that's a conversation for another day, listeners. Maybe Options Oddities. Let's get on out to what's lighting up the tape out there today, listeners. And, surprisingly active out there. In fact, I was just digging into some paper while the Meatball was talking to see what is lighting up some of these names out here. Let's get out to VIX land first. Like we said, it's one of those weird days. Seems like the the market kind of waking up, shaking off the cobwebs maybe from last week, trying to get its footing, a little unsteady. But that's translating into some paper right now. VIX already 417,000 contracts. That looks even better when you see the ADV is still only 669,000 contracts. That's up about 50,000 from this time last week. So that ADV has skyrocketed thanks to Powell and company. VIX volume tends to do that on Fed weeks. SPY not taking any prisoners today. 4.75 million contracts. The ADV about a little bit shy of 8 million. So SPY on the rampage out there today. I guess this kind of sell-off and slow rally, it's kind of a mini whipsaw day. They do like a little bit of a whipsaw out there, so maybe that's what's driving the paper. The S also saying, hold my beer, kid. Don't forget about me. 1.7 million contracts on the tape for the S right now. The ADV about 2.9 million. I'm looking right now. Once again, listeners, we have another day where the entirety of the top 20 most actives in the S all expiring today. If I go beyond it to the top 40, I see 1, I see 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, 5 of the top 40. That seems to be our max these days. 5 of the top 40 most active contracts in the entirety of the SPX. Not a small little retail product, listeners. Only 5 of them are not expiring today. Again, that just shows you how this product has been transformed over the past year. And it's not just little guys. I mean, this is 46,000 of the 4,300 puts going up today. I mean, it's just crazy how many big players have just gravitated towards the 0-day stuff. And so quickly, too. It's crazy. The small caps, IWM, nearly 500K, 487,000 contracts on the tape. Right now, small caps managing to be one of the rays of sunshine out there today, up about 0.5% right now in IWM. Again, good for 487,000. The ADV, 828, so it seems like it's on pace to beat that. And the Q's already 2.25 million contracts. The ADV 3.6. Yeah, it's probably going to hit that today, listeners. Let's get out to the single names. And now, again, we kind of flipped the script. Now it's like we're back in the dog days of summer again. I mean, there's nothing going on single name right now, unless you look at the very, very top of the list. It's a weird one. Number 10, AMC. Only cost you $150,000. That's extremely light. Usually at least 155 or something, maybe $160. Only 150,000 today, so nobody cares about single name options today. They got you to AMC. They're trading $8.41 right now, up about 80 cents. So they're popping hard today, almost 11%, but not good enough to generate any numbers. Number 9, Uncle Mike was just talking about them. Good old Softy, taking a bit of a slight hiatus today. 316 and about a quarter, down about 80 cents today. They've had a range of about 315 on the dark side and 317.67 on the upside. So they've had about a 2 2/3 point range, so not nothing. And that's translating to only 162,000 contracts today. So a whole heck of a lot of nothing. You know, it's a weird day, a light day, listeners, when this name makes it on our top 10 most active. This is ChargePoint. You know, I joke about them on Oddities and other shows saying we're not even going to waste our time with this one because there is size weirdo paper in this name literally every day to the point where it's just like, what the hell is going on out here? It's just, you could 50,000 lots of everything and this thing and rolls and synthetics and everything else. There are some funds out there who love to generate contract volume in this name for God knows what reason, because it certainly doesn't seem to be a profit potential of the options. You look at what they're putting up, you're like, this is almost the definition of a love your broker name. Loving the broker today to the tune of 175,000 contracts today. ChargePoint kind of unched, only off about a nickel today. Let's see, do they have a crazy range? They had a little bit wider range. 520 on the upside, 496, pretty much right where we're hanging out right now on the downside. All right, I'm going to do it, listen. I don't know why, but I'm going to do it. I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm going to pull up ChargePoint, and we're going to see really quickly what the most active nonsense is today. 50,000 of the 5 puts expiring on the 6th of October, so the weeklies, and 50,000 as well of the 5 half puts expiring this week, the 29th. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's probably a roll. And also 50,000 of the OC4 puts expiring on the 6th. So maybe they're rolling the 5 half puts in this week. Those look like they're closing into an OC 5-4 put spread 50,000 times. So that's 150,000 of your 175,000 contracts right there. Again, this name puts up size paper, size block prints for a kind of otherwise nothing name. And yet the next biggest trade is 2,000 contracts. Yet for some reason, some funds love to put up size. This one actually a little bit more straightforward than some of the other weirdo prints we've seen in there over the years. Either way, charge point number 8, $1.75. Number 7, the artist formerly known as Facebook, listeners. Yep, it is Meta, announcing they're doubling down on AI now with some investments. Also putting out some chatbots for the youngins, trying to get the kiddos back interested in Facebook for whatever reason. Doesn't seem like it's working, even though they are net up. Right now, they're off about 0.75 of a buck, or about 0.25%. They've had a range, though. They got as low as 293.70 and the high of 300.25 today. So quite the range out there for Meta, hanging out 298 and roughly a half right now. And again, good for only 183,000 contracts. So not much on the tape for them. Number 6, Chip Zone coming about where we usually expect it. Number 6, this is AMD, 210,000 contracts. AMD up 63 cents right now, trading 96.83. It's actually had a decent range here as well. 94 and about a half on the dark side, 97.13 on the upside. So a little bit off the high end of that range for today. And again, good for 210,000 contracts. And the number 5 spot, could be number 6 spot. Number 5 is going back to the REITs. And again, this is a weird one. This is the one I was looking up while the Meatball was regaling us with all sorts of fun about IC belts. This is Medical Properties Trust, ticker symbol MPW, trading 522, off about 12 cents today. You don't usually see REITs in our top 10. Again, it kind of shows you what a light day it is, and also makes you wonder maybe if something is afoot out here in this name. Sometimes it could be weird stuff, someone trying to game a dividend or something. But it looks like got 50,000. Looks like a no 5-4 put spread has gone up 50,000 times. That's 100,000 contracts. That's a good chunk of what went up out there, but there's still more. OC 6 puts going up 13,000 times. Looks like against OC 5 half puts and the 5s, so maybe a funky strip. It's not quite a fly, because 20,000 of the 5 half puts, and then 20,000 of the 5 puts, and then 30,000 of the 6 puts. So funky ratios there as well. So if you add up those, that's of course 80,000 contracts, and the other one's 100,000. So that's $1.80 right there. So that pretty much accounts for the lion's share of what we're seeing out here. But it looks like, let's just look really quickly to see if this is mostly, yeah, the no put spread is opening, and the OC 5 half puts are opening. So maybe there was a 6-5 put spread in October. They're closing that, put on the 5 half puts. Again, that's the kind of weirdo paper we see in some of these names, listeners. And then the no put spread straight up. So a lot of action in this REIT, which is interesting, trading 5.25 right now. So you would not expect a REIT trading around $5 to be in our top 10, but that's kind of snoozer day we're having out there, listeners. Number 4, a name you've heard of. This is the Amazonians, 347. Another one is kind of doubling down on AI today. They're making investments in some names, and you sprinkle a little AI dust. Usually that's good for a pop, and you're seeing that on Amazon today, up a little over $2, trading 131.20 right now. And again, good for number 4, 347,000 contracts. Right behind it, another A-named tech company. It's the fruit company, good old Apple. Number 3, 421,000 contracts, trading 176.10, up about $1.30. Let's see, on the week, it's still net off about $1.50. And on the month, it got up to nearly 190, obviously, so 189.70 just a few weeks ago. So obviously we are below that. And the all-time high, 198.25, obviously well below that. But all things considered, Apple has survived this recent downturn relatively unscathed. Number 2, you can take a guess what it is right now. Listen, you can probably guess the top 2 off just listening to the show for a while. Number 2, we got NVIDIA looking uncharacteristically light, only 555,000 contracts on the tape for NVIDIA. It's a day that ends in Y, so they're popping almost 5.25 handles right now, trading 421.17. You know the saga for them. A month ago, they were trading over $500, 502.66. They have given that back. Still $80 roughly, but you know what? On the year, they're still up ridiculously, 194%. So kind of hard to weep for NVIDIA. And then number 1, once again, no one can dethrone the king. It is Tesla, 1.13 million, trading 245 and about a half, up about 60 cents today. They've had a range of 238 and a third to the dark side, and 247.07 to the upside. So impressive. Almost a $9 range on the day. So that's obviously translating to a little bit of paper out there. In terms of earnings paper, there's still some names popping off you've heard of. Tuesday, we got Costco after the bell, so you might want to see what's going on in their big box retail there. Wednesday, got good old Micron. Man, I remember the days back on the SEBO when Micron was a hot flying tech name. Maybe not quite that anymore, not top of mind for a lot of people out there, but still an intriguing one. I know a lot of you trade it. Thursday got CarMax, a bit of a bellwether for the used car space. Nike, they haven't popped off yet either. And then BlackBerry, whatever remains of that name, popping off then as well. Let's look really quickly at what a couple of names are pricing in, then we'll get to the old Eye of Sauron. Costco, 26 after the bell, $558.60 is where they're trading. They're pricing in $17.60. My goodness. In the past, they've moved $11.60. Wow. $6 extra juice in Costco? That's a lot. I have to spend some time digging around Costco, see what's cooking. Listen, you trade yourself a little bit of Costco? Well, they're pricing in some juice. Micron, 27th after the bell, $68.90 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $3.81. In the past, they've moved $3.10, so they're also on the heavy juice front right now. Interesting. Nike, 28th after the bell, $91 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $5.18. In the past, they've moved $6.61, so they're pricing in light juice. Wow. Interesting. Let's go out to used cars really quickly as well. CarMax, 28th before the bell. 76 2/3 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $7. In the past, they've moved $7.50. So they're pricing in maybe a little bit of less vol out there in the used car front as well. So wow. Costco and Micron, though, looking heavy. Nike and CarMax, not so much. That's why we crunch the numbers. You can crunch those numbers for yourselves, listeners. TheOptionsInsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab as we continue on right on into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, let's get out there. Let's do some digging, see what we can uncover. Again, it's not the most rock'em sock'em of equity option days, so let's see what our Eye of Sauron can find. Let's go out first to Synchrony Financial. We haven't talked about this one in a long time. Ticker symbol SYF. Trading 31 1/4 right now, off about a dime today. On the year, let's see, a year ago it was trading 28 1/4. So they've had a nice little run up, about nearly 11%, or about $3 net on the year. They've had some runs outside of that. They got up to their high for the year, actually, was almost $41. That was on November 11th. And they kind of gave it right back. By January 5th, they were back to 31 and change. Then they rallied it again February 2nd, $38. Then down to their low for the year on May 4th of 26 and about a half. Then they rallied it again on July 19th, back up to $36 and change, before kind of gently drifting back down to where it is right now, 31 1/4. So we're still net up on the year, about 3 handles, but a long way from the high of nearly $41 as well. Let's see, what did our Eye of Sauron find out there this morning, listeners? Looks like somebody maybe a little bit concerned about the near-term prospects of this bad boy, or perhaps what they're going to announce at their earnings, because somebody coming in this morning and looks like they gobbled up about 6,700 of the Nove 29 puts. They paid 74 cents for these, so pretty much right off the offer. They did it, again, 6,700 times. The stock, almost exactly right here, a penny away, 31.27. It's 31.28 now. And interestingly enough, this does protect them through earnings, because they're buying the Nove expiration, and the earnings are on October 25th, so clearly earnings on their mind when they put up this trade. Mr. Meatball, let's start here, sir, in Synchrony Financial. What's catching your eye out here? What are your thoughts on these fairly meaty downside puts here in SYF, sir?
Yeah, they are meaty, some decent size. This is one that was real hot, and it now, it's kind of pulled back. Somebody probably just saying, hey, I'll buy the stock for $29. If you look on the chart, it hasn't been below $29 since May. So they've got a level that they're willing to own it. Although looking at the chart, doesn't look that great. Do
you think they sold these puts? You don't think they bought them?
Let's let's see. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's take a look. I mean, if they sold them or if they bought them, that would make much more sense. Let me take a look here. They paid. Oh, they bought it. Yeah, you're right. They bought them 74 cents. And then there were some buys after. So that does not, on the opposite end, that doesn't bode it well at all. And they're basically saying it's going for May lows, which would be very bad for Synchrony Financial. And the chart does look ugly. So I guess I'm not surprised.
Yeah, that one seemed a little bit more dire out there. You know, before I keep going with some of our other stuff, I know you're always looking at flow over there in the land of the pit. Anything intriguing come across your radar you want to share with us today before I get to some more Eye of Sauron candidates?
Yeah, this was one that was a little odd. MASI, Massimo Corporation.
MASI.
And I know it is not the clothing brand Massimo. This is the healthcare company. The stock, the total open interest today, leading into today was about 11,000 contracts. A trader bought 5,000 call spreads. Buying Titus stock bought the 105, 120 call. Again, delta neutral, but leans pretty heavily bullish. The stock chart's been terrible, but they're looking for a bit of a rebound here. That was one that caught my eye. And then in CCJ, I think they got out a little early. On Friday, we saw traders jumping over themselves to buy the 42 calls expiring this Friday. They paid 17 cents, etc. And then on the open, the trader bailed at 23 cents. If the trader had hung out for an hour, the trader would have been up beaucoup because CCJ is now 41.30, and those call options are trading 50 cents. So, well-executed, timely trade, but a little early on the exit.
Yeah, we talked about those CCJ on oddities on Friday, listeners. There was a 15,000 lot of the September expiring this Friday, listeners. 42 calls. They paid 17 cents. The stock was $39.50. They end up coming back and buying more, 8,000 more, to a total of 23,000 traded on the day. So they really like those. I hadn't had a chance I was going to track them again on the Friday show and see how they performed. But you're right.
They bailed early.
They didn't have the courage of their convictions, sir.
I know. They literally needed to wait an hour. High of the day on those things, the high of the day on these is 78 cents. Their trade, they would have made millions and millions of dollars if they could have just hung out for a minute.
I have a hard time getting on people for getting out early because we see so many people not doing anything and then losing everything. But yeah, this one, you're right. You put this trade on. You put it on Friday. We just looking for a weekend pop in uranium? Is that what you were looking for?
I guess he was like, I guess uranium's not going as much as I was expecting.
I guess.
And then, sells his calls, then comes back half an hour later and it's like, no.
Yeah, that's rough. You're going to do all that. I mean, we say it. You got to get out quick, usually with the weeklies. I get that. But yeah, yes. Man, this one, give yourself a little. The market's just open.
If you're going to cheat, go through with it.
Yeah, exactly. You got a week. Give yourself a couple of days. It's only 17 cents. Chances are.
Yeah, give yourself an hour, right? Let things play out a little bit. Because, this stock really did take off. It didn't take it very long either. I mean, it by 9:40, the stock was already by 9:40. So within 10 minutes, the stock was taking off. And by 10 o'clock, the stock was $41. Reached a high of $41.85 earlier today. Has pulled up back a little bit, but this one looks like it's going to be moving higher.
Yeah, these are printing 45 cents at one point today, and he dumped them for 23.
High is 78.
Wow. That's going to leave a mark. You do all this, you go to all the effort. Yeah, well, try before. I mean, chances are you buy them for 17 cents. You kind of got to be okay with that 17 cents going away, I think. You swing for the fences. You try. It's a scratcher at that point. And, I don't know. Yeah, just bailing at the
Maybe he went away today and his risk manager sold them on the open because they didn't want to deal with them.
Well, the risk manager should have said.
Then the guy would be that would be such a risk manager.
What are you buying this crap to be given? Yeah, that's probably what happened. Like, they got a call over the weekend. Like, what are you wasting this money on this 17-cent nonsense in Cameco in the weeklies for. This is not what we do. We're done with this. Yeah. And they bailed and they made money. So he's going to say, hey, I made my 6 cents. Percentage-wise, he crushed it. But yeah, that's a sad one. That's a sad one there, listeners. So yeah, no joy in Mudville on those. Going to be hard to top. Tell you what, let's jump to this one here. This is a newcomer to the odd block. We're talking about uranium and all kinds of fun. Let's go out to Energy Fuels Inc. Ticker symbol UUUU. So 4 U's in a row. That's the ticker they chose for this name. Trading $8.75, popping hard today, up 55 cents. So getting all sorts of juice today. It just says Energy Fuels Holding. I'm not sure what type of energy fuel, but you know what? They're listed in the same category as a Cameco or a Uranium Energy. And given the fact that it's UUU, I'm going to go out on a limb and say they do something uranium related because they're popping hard today. Let's see. On the year, a year ago, $5.42. Then they rallied it for the first time to about $7.70. That was in November. And then they crushed it back down to $5.79 again. So that was in December. Then they rallied it again February 2nd. Listeners, you can probably guess the clockwork by now. $7.70. And then they crushed it again to the low for the year of $4.90, actually $4.85. That was on March 24th. So you could have bought all you wanted this thing for $4.85 back in March. And then ever since then, it's been pretty much straight up with the aggressive shot from August till now. Got up to 6.25 by August 17th. Then since then, it has popped to where it is right now, $8.75. So popping hard, right near its 52-week high of $8.93, listeners. And you know what, Mr. Meatball? Somebody thinks we ain't done yet because they came in this morning and scooped 3,278 of the quadruple U, 11 calls in January, and they paid 40 cents for these bad boys. That is a 55 vol. Stock was $8.62 at the time, listeners. You're getting earnings between now and then. The next announcement is on November 3rd. So yeah, the stock that was $4.85 back in March, they just paid 40 cents for the 11 calls, nearly 4,000 times. Mr. Meatball, are you loving these? Have you even heard of quadruple U in the uranium space?
I mean, well, you heard us talk about CCJ. UUU, I have. You know who was my guy, Frank Gregory, has been watching this one and kind of called it out several months ago. I wish I'd have paid better attention to him. But, yeah, huge volume on that strike. But, you know, that looking at the way this has moved, I mean, why would you buy those? And, you know, that you would think that would be a logical one to sell and then buy something underneath it. You know, that would make a little more sense to me. Use that to sell and buy something underneath. You know, that makes a lot more sense to me. But hey, you know, you're right. It was just $4 a little while ago, but during the last uranium craze, this did get up to $11 in April of 2022. So don't write it off.
Maybe write these calls instead, listeners. And I could do a lot of things versus buying the Jan 11s for 40 cents. By the way, they are, according to their website, listeners, the number one uranium producer in the U.S. and the number one conventional producer of vanadium. So there you go, listeners. If you wanted another flyer, and for whatever reason, $42 roughly for CCJ, and maybe you don't like Denison Mines trading around $1.70 now, maybe you love quadruple U. There you go. All sorts of fun. Lots of uranium fun these days. My goodness. Let's see if we can keep the party going now. Uncle Mike's always fun. It's time for a little bit of the old strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, listeners, welcome to the Strategy Block, the portion of the show where Uncle Mike dispenses options, wit, and or wisdom. He also holds court on all things uranium and vanadium. A new one to add to your list, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. What's catching your eye in the cutthroat world of vanadium production in the U.S., sir?
You know what? I just missed the days of when we were trying to talk about aluminum as if it was aluminium. Remember that?
Rolled aluminium. It sounds so proper, doesn't it?
It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Now, what I want to talk about today is the resurgence of the collar. And what I mean by that is that now that we have interest rates again over the last year, a lot of trades that were not there before are coming back, and one of them can be considered the collar. So just to give you a quick example on this, let's say that you want to go a year out, and in terms of why I'm saying this, it's just totally random. I'm just picking something and shooting from the hip right now. I'm not in this position. I'm just trying to illustrate a point. But let's say that we wanted to buy SPY and we didn't want to take on any risk. Right now, SPY is trading roughly 430. If we go 361 days out, just under a year, we can buy SPY, the underlying, and we can also buy the 430 put. And the cost of buying that put option would be roughly $23. So with that, if we wanted to have a very low risk trade, as in less than 1%, arguably you could even say it's less than that because SPY pays a dividend, so a guaranteed slight moneymaker, we could buy that put, buy the underlying, and then find a call to sell. Now, what call could we sell? We could actually sell, in this case, the 460 call. Same time frame, and we can sell the 460 for, I'm showing, a similar price. Now, I'm oversimplifying these numbers. It might not be this favorable, plus I'm not taking in commission. But what this does is this gives you the opportunity to get close to $30 of upside in SPY, and you're not really taking on any risk. So with that being said, you're taking on zero risk, assuming SPY pays the dividend, because whatever numbers I'm leaving out, the dividend will take care of, because it pays roughly a $6 dividend if you add it up throughout the year, maybe a little more, maybe a little bit less. So on there, you have the opportunity to make around 7% if SPY goes up that amount, and you don't have any risk. So that's kind of exciting when you think about it. And if you see a lot of these indexed annuities out there, that's kind of what they do. They do it in a different way, but that's kind of what they're promising. Now, with that being said, I'm not trying to rip or bash indexed annuities, but just have an understanding of what they actually are. The disadvantage of an indexed annuity a lot of times is that you'll be locked in for a period of time. You'll have ordinary income as your gain, and that's assuming you're over 59 and a half. I mean, they're complicated is the main gripe that I have about them. And don't get me wrong, I have some clients in them, combined with option strategies, of course. I don't think there's an advisor on the planet that can say that besides me. But my point is that now that we have interest rates again, you can find more opportunities like this in the stock world. And let's say that 7%, that's really not worth getting out of bed in the morning. Well, you can loosen up the collar a bit. The point is that you can have opportunities like this now that you did not before we had interest rates a couple of years ago. So this is another way with which to look for things. If you want to have some type of hedged equity exposure, you have this availability that you didn't necessarily have before. So one thing that I would encourage you to do, if you believe that volatility is an asset class and you believe that hedged equity is something that's of great potential within the volatility asset class, collars are something to consider, not just on SPY, but there's individual stocks that could give you the same potential risk reward benefit. And that is my strategy block for today. Last one for September and last one for Q3.
There you go, listeners. Gotta love a good collar. Always fun times out there. You know, it's always fun when we go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's go around the block, see what we're keeping an eye on until our next show on Thursday. Before we do that, really quick, kick you off here with our question of the week. You know, we were talking about it on the network last week. Said it seemed like a good time to do another sentiment type question, given all the red we're seeing out there right now. So that's exactly what we did. We said we've seen a little red on the screen lately, so it's time to gauge your broad market sentiment once again. Quite simply, where are you comfortable buying into or perhaps buying more SPX right now? He gave you 4 choices. Right around here, maybe you're in the Uncle Mike camp. You're bullish already. You're bullish right now. You don't want to wait. So you want to buy it somewhere where it was vacillating around when we posted the poll. So somewhere between 4,300 and 43.5. Or maybe you want a little bit lower before you start nibbling. So that's, let's say, below 4,200. Or you want to go lower still. You want it to break the old 4K level. You want to buy it below 4,000. Or you're in the Matt from Orat's camp. You're in the 3,000 before 5,000 camp. You want it to dip below its low from last year again, which would be somewhere below 3,600. So those are your 4 choices. Let's go out to the greasiest of meatballs now, sir. If you have a vote, have at it. B, what do you think our audience is voting for? And then C, what are you keeping an eye on until the Thursday show?
All right. Well, let's start with what I'm keeping an eye on for Thursday's show. And it's the House GOP. Are they going to be able to push through some sort of bill to get things moving? All right. And because that is what is crushing bonds. Does the bond sell-off kind of pollute into the general equity markets? We're kind of at a really interesting spot. Are we going to be able to break 4,300? Those are kind of the big things I'm watching. All right, so now looking at our poll, are we going to stay? Are we going to stay here? Are we going to be a little lower, even lower, or below? Yeah, I like that you don't even have a higher.
Nope.
Right?
Because we're vacillating right now. If you want to start buying, if it goes higher, of course you're going to want to buy it. Uncle Mike's already in with two hands.
Well, I think I would be a buyer at the 200 for sure, which is around 4,180. So I'm going to say a little lower, 4,200. And I think our audience, being the perma bears they are saying even lower, 4,000.
There are some perma bears lurking out there in the audience. Mr. Uncle Mike, as the perma bull, what is your vote? B, what do you think our audience is voting for? And C, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week?
Well, I mean, my vote is that I guess if I had to let it go a little bit lower, of course you want to, but why wait at this point? 4,180, the percentage points that you miss if you buy now, just buy now. Come on, Mark, have some fun with it. Live a little bit. I can see where you're coming from and wanting it to come down a little bit to the 200. I get it, but just buy it. Come on. So that's where I'm at, and I'm in agreement with Mark in that I think the audience is going to want to be significantly lower. In terms of what I'm watching, 4,300 is just a key mark for me on the SPX. So watching to see if we can hold that with where we are on it. Low of the day today at 4,302. So keeping an eye on that throughout the week today, or throughout the week until next Thursday, and that's what I'm watching.
Let's see what our crazies are up to. This just went live right before showtime, listeners, so it's still very much early days out here. Get over there at Options, the place to go. If you don't see it at the top, usually a show is pinned at the top. Right below it should be this. If not, we try to retweet it throughout the week, so it makes it easy for you guys to find. We get it. We put out a lot of content on the old socials, so it can move down pretty quickly, but we keep bouncing it back up to the top. Too bad you can't pin like 2 or 3 things. That'd be nice. But right now, listeners, looks like the Perma Bulls, maybe they haven't woken up yet today because they're not out in force. Right now, we have the a little bit lower crowd, just a little bit below 4,200, winning with a little over half the vote, 54.5%. Then we got a tie for number 2 between the even lower crowd, below 4,000. And right around here, the Uncle Mike crowd, 4,300 to 43.5. They're both at 18.2. And then the Perma Bulls below the 2022 low of 3,600. They're only 9.1%, so they're not out yet. Agree, disagree? Get in there at Options. Make your voice heard. Battle it out with the other folks out there. Let's see what wins out here this week. Unfortunately, that music means we are done, at least for this show, at least for right now. Back in a little bit with the old crypto rundown to break down the madness, the craziness in the world of crypto. We'll all find out what's cooking out there together. Back again throughout the rest of the week with our usual array of content until we get to the old OB. But before we do that, let's go around the horn. Let's find out what everybody has cooking. Let's start with the Uncle list of Mikes. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, where should folks go if they want more Uncle Mike goodness in their lives?
If you want some more Uncle Mike goodness in your life, check out my website, stcharleswealth.com, if you're looking for a financial advisor. And feel free to follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW.
And Mr. Meatball, sir, same question for you, sir. Where should folks go if they want to talk uranium, stocks, or vol, or anything else?
Yeah, go to optionpit.com. We're doing great content on the Trader's Edge blog every day, and we just did our first series breaking down individual stocks as a group. Today, we broke down Penn Gaming, so make sure to check us out there. Optionpit.com.
Optionpit.com. See if you can get that tinny note in your voice. Hard to match the Meatball when it comes to tinniness in the old voice. That's all we're going to get from the tinny voice today, listeners. Back again for the crypto rundown in a little bit, then back again with our usual array of content until we gather here together with the Flow Master on Thursday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.